Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Tuesday night. You know where it's at. It's Flyers Talk A to D. Got a lot to talk about. A lot has happened in the last week. We talked dark horse coaching options, and the next day, Rick Tocchet was hired as the Flyers head coach, and we're going to discuss that. You got a lot to talk about on that topic. We're going to talk about what's next, his intentions, what our expectations are for Rick Tocchet now as the head coach. We also got the conference finals. They're set. They're actually underway right now. Florida versus Carolina. Last I saw, it was 2-1 in intermission. We also had Dallas and Edmonton going at it in the western side. We'll talk about that, preview that a little bit, see who we got representing their said conference in the Stanley Cup final. So make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that share, retweet, depending on what you're on. Make sure you jump in the chat. Let's get this conversation rolling, boys.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of Flyers Talk A2D right here on A2DRadio.com. I am Matt Cincinnati, along with the Dark Wing, Brian Daly.
What up?
The Broken One, Rob Povia.
What is good, peoples?
And today we are brought to you by, as always, the doc, Dr. Paul Vidal over at Specialized Physical Therapy. If you got any aches and pains, don't walk, run if you can to either Burlington or Cherry Hill, New Jersey, or go online at www.specializedphysicaltherapy.com, make an appointment, and after a few sessions with them, you'll feel as good as new, you'll feel great, and you'll be back to doing the things you love to do without feeling pain at the end of the day. Dr. Paul Vidal, Specialized Physical Therapy. And the poll question for today is, Rick Tocchet will be a coach that will lure high-end free agents to the Flyers. Agree or disagree? And obviously, we talked about the coaching situation for the Flyers. The debate of, will the dark horse candidate be the one chosen? Will the Flyers think outside the box, or will they play it safe and go with a former Flyer? And they decided to go safe with a former Flyer. And Rick Tocchet is now the new head coach here in Philadelphia. So, gentlemen, do you agree with this move by Danny, or do you think he might be reaching here and disagree possibly?
Before I jump in and do that, I do want to make a little bit of a programming announcement for those who've noticed there's 3 of us here. There's not 4. Let's let everybody know we did part ways with Brad. It was not anything personal with him. We feel like that it was a mutual agreement for both parties to kind of do our thing and let Brad go do his thing with the final whistle. Which you can catch on Fridays. So check them out. It's him and Brinkman. They do a very good job over there. We want to thank Brad for what he's brought with us for, I believe it was about 2 years. But we're going to go back to the OG3, me, Maddie, and Robbie. We've been doing this for 10 years together. I think this is the best move for the show. And I just wanted to say thanks, Brad, for the 2 years that you gave us and all the insight and always being a gamer, always being there when we needed you. So thanks, Brad. And this is not going to be, that's not going to be the last time we probably have you on the show. I'm sure there's going to be times on the road where we can definitely get you back there. But as far as the poll question goes, I'm going to agree. I think just because of a lot of the things that he said in his press conference, which I'm completely flipped my tone on this hire as far as Rick Tocchet goes. I said for weeks, I don't want Rick Tocchet. But he's saying the right things right now. And I think having a coach like that who has a great repertoire with some of the better players in the league, Quinn Hughes being number 1, a lot of guys in that organization being upset that he's gone, it says a lot about the character and the type of coach that he is. He used the term untapped potential a lot describing this roster. I think if he can tap some of that potential over this year, I don't necessarily think they're going to I don't necessarily think they're going to lure anybody this year, but I think once they get going and Tyson Forrester takes the next step, Cam York gets back on track, Bobby Brink takes the next step, Noah Cates, Lord knows what's going to happen with his unfortunate contract situation. So we'll see what happens with him. But if they can start getting the best out of these guys, I think he's going to lure guys like maybe a Quinn Hughes. I mean, some of the more unlikely, but guys who are going to be free agents at the end of next year is going to be Kirill Kaprizov, Connor McDavid, guys like that. So maybe there's a point in time where maybe he can lure guys like that to come to Philly. Maybe even he might be able to lure Mitch Marner this year. But I definitely think it's going to be. I definitely think he's going to be a piece that is definitely going to lure some high-end free agents here because he gets the best out of his players. He is a hard-nosed coach, but the players generally enjoy playing for him. So we'll see what happens, but I agree to the poll.
So Priz is saying apparently Pedersen and JT Miller had beef since 2021, and also apparently Vancouver was just rotting from the inside out. Benny's saying I'll pass on Mitchie Poo. There is a couple of starred comments, actually 3. We'll get to them in just a second. But before we do, agree and disagree on me. Actually, there's 4. We'll get to 4-star comments. I will say for this, I would like to see some consistency a little bit behind the bench. This is what really bothers me about the continuing hiring and firing of coaches is that it's making it, to me, I feel like it's hard for a team to really the build to get underway and to really get into the right groove and to get to the right, development if you keep switching out coaches every 5 minutes. It's the one thing that has really been a problem for the Flyers for the better part of 2 decades now. And it's really, to me, I think that does cause problems. It's one thing if you're a consistent playoff team where you have established talent that has had proven seasons and can gel well and they can figure things out. You can switch coaches in and out, and you can probably survive that without too much of a problem. However, though, I do find it somewhat concerning that we keep swapping out coaches every 5 minutes. I understand that at some point a coach loses their luster. I understand that. I get that. But at some point, you got to have a coach that you really trust and you really have that investment in and really can help work with these players. Even if you have a terrible season, you still trust that coach and you still know that they're going in the right direction. It's just that they had a bad season because they're still building and they're still figuring out everything that needs to be figured out here in Philly. That to me is where I feel like that's a big problem of just having that revolving door. And we've had it over the last, God, just the last 7 seasons alone. How many coaches have the Flyers burned through? And it's a very alarming thing to see. It was one thing, like I said, back in the early 2000s and in the late 90s when you had the ability to stack the deck and just build teams that were dream teams or build around a superstar and not have to worry about a salary cap. Coaches were kind of just hired and fired willy-nilly back then. It really didn't matter unless you were Lindy Ruff. But the point being is that nowadays I feel like coaches, there needs to be a little bit more staying power with them. There has to be something like, okay, like look at, for example, Rod Brindamore with Carolina. Yes, obviously, depending upon how this Eastern Conference Finals go, that might determine whether or not Brindamore stays behind the bench in Carolina. But you could tell that the investment was very much there behind him. No matter how many times Carolina disappointed, no matter how many times it seemed like they kept on trying to figure things out, they still trusted in him, no matter how disappointing the ending was. So I'm wondering, like, when are we going to see that in the Flyers system? That's the one concern I truly have right now. That's my biggest worry.
Yeah.
And to answer the question, though, do I agree or disagree with it? it's not so much that I disagree with the hire necessarily. I disagree with the whole principle of the matter of like, okay, we hired a coach, we fired him after 3 seasons, now we're hiring a new coach. It's like, where's the consistency? That's what's bugging me. That's the only thing that I'm really having a problem getting my head around. And again, I get it, drama and what have you in the locker room and whatnot. But again, it's just, okay, then we need to get better at picking coaches. That's a
Well,
big problem there. But
well,
go ahead.
just real quick, Maddie. So I agree with what you said to an extent. There definitely needs to be some consistency. But when your head coach comes out at the end of the year and he says, I don't remember it verbatim, but says something along the lines of, I don't know how to coach a team in this situation, you
Well,
got to
yeah,
get rid of them.
right. I get
You have
that.
to.
I get that. He put his foot in his mouth. He definitely did.
Go figure.
Right. I mean, it was only a matter of time, right? By the way, Florida just went up 3-1. But anyway, definitely still think though at the end of the day, even with what Torts said, it's still one of those things of, okay, when are we gonna get? It's like, okay, so you kind of, how do I put this? You knew he was that kind of coach. You knew that it was inevitable. You knew it was coming somewhere down the line. No matter how much Torts has matured, no matter how much Torts has changed his attitude and approach to coaching, no matter what, you knew at some point it was going to happen. Like, you knew that going in. You still hired him, though. So I still kind of have to give a little bit. I'm throwing a little shade at Danny on that. Just a little. It's just like, you knew it was coming. You still did it. You
If
know?
that's unfounded though, Maddie, because this is the modern NHL, and we always talk about on the ice. Well, there's a modern off the ice issue in the NHL, and that's coaches don't last. Yeah, they might sign that, generic 5-year contract. How often do coaches last 5 years in this league? League wide, never, hardly ever. 2-3 years, they're gone. Right? It's just a different league. There's a lot less patience. I think there's a lot less patience in the world, and we're seeing it, in the sport we love.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the other thing you got to think about too is, it's Torts played the game, or not Torts. Sorry, Tocchet played the game. He understands a little bit more of the player side and how to adjust in certain situations more than Torts did. So that's going to be a major plus, especially when developing some of these younger guys like a Mitch Kov or a Forrester. He's going to know how to let these guys play, and he's going to know the situations a little bit better than Torts. And I'm not taking anything away from him. He's a good coach, but I think understanding the situations on the ice from being there, being in those situations, makes Tocchet a little bit more valuable, a little bit more of an asset, and that's why I like the hire now. I didn't at the time, but I do now. I like the hire after doing a little bit more homework. Just it was time. It was time. I mean, I saw Jesse's comment from Old City Sports Network. Go check out his stuff. You had to choose somebody. You had to choose somebody. And right now, do you really want to give up on a young defenseman who has a fairly high upside, or would you rather get rid of a hothead coach right, who is not only holding back some of your talent, but holding back potentially your franchise star player?
Right. And speaking of Jesse, I was fortunate enough to be invited on Flyers Alley yesterday, and we were talking about what our feelings were, we in or out on talk. And I was right with you, Brian, right? And it seems like Maddie as well, right? That my first gut reaction was, ugh. Here's an example of Philadelphia Flyers nepotism, right? And then you're going to fire one coach that got too emotional and caused drama for another coach that's coming from a dramatic scene. That doesn't make too much sense with me. Despite the match, I figured it was just, okay, the fan base is starting to turn on what we're starting to rebuild here. We had a new era of orange, and there was that initial rush, and now it's kind of dying off. Let's bring in, famous Flyer and Rick Tocchet to put butts in the seats, right? But I think it's more than that. And I've done my research too. And that presser definitely did a lot to change my view. So I became reluctantly in on Tocchet. I would have preferred Ferschweiler in terms of the way he could further along this rebuild. But this may be, okay, boys, we've rebuilt long enough. Let's throw a little aggression into this rebuild. And that comes into the second point, which ties into tonight's face-off poll, that a big reason Rick Tocchet's brought in here is to learn high-end free agents to accelerate this rebuild. I absolutely agree with this poll. Tocchet, he's been around the league for a long time. He's formed strong relationships with players. He's known as tough but fair, and he holds his players' best interests at heart always. The emotions can sometimes spill into drama, like I just said, and we saw that last season. But the guys still enjoy playing for him. He's developed some of the elite players in this league. For example, Sidney Crosby, Steven Stamkos, Clayton Keller, Quinn Hughes. Brian, you talked about Hughes. He has a strong relationship with him, to your point. And he's going to be an unrestricted free agent in 2027 at age 27. Good.
And he wants to be closer to his brothers.
Yes.
By the way, Jesse, no, I probably wouldn't be throwing shade at Danny in person. I mean, Danny, just because Danny was small for his size in the NHL, that don't mean he wasn't tough as nails.
Well, I mean, it's going to be interesting how it plays out, though. I mean, he brings a lot. We'll get into, the pros and cons for the hire, but I think you can bring in, some free agents here, and, you got to think that he's learned a lot, right? He's been an assistant. He won 2 as an assistant, 1 as a player with Pittsburgh, right? He never got the job done here. That's a strong motivation.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of subpar teams in Phoenix and was able to make something of that team, right? Now you're talking about a guy that in his coaching career only made the playoffs twice, 11 wins in the playoffs. That's equal with Dave Haxtell. So you can't say that he's that much higher than some of these college coaches that we're looking at, but it just, the heart is on his sleeve, and I think we're ready to go. So I'm really I love Rick Tocchet. I don't want to hate on him, right? But I hear Philadelphia and what they're saying in terms of, we got now an ex-Flyer president, ex-Flyer GM, an ex-Flyer head coach, right? John LeClaire is a special advisor to the team, right? Hey, there has been some success with that, and ultimately we got to find a recipe to end the Stanley Cup drought that's going on 50 years.
I will say this, though, that I think I'm sort of kind of backing off on the whole, the former Flyer this, former Flyer that. It's always a lot of teams do that. But also on top of it as well, another thing that I would say is we've gone outside the organization several times, and it's blown up in our faces too. So last time I checked, when we hired Alain Vigneault, he had nothing to do with the Flyers prior to coming here. And it did not end well for us. Mike Yao, nothing to do with the Flyers before coming here. There's a lot of guys we've gone to outside of the organization, and it didn't work out in that way either. So I'm just saying, we've had both experiences, and both have ended the exact same way.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of backing off a little bit on that. I'm still not again, it's like Danny, I still believe in at the end of the day. I just think that, was it a decision made that I feel comfortable with, of you hired Torts, you knew what you were getting when you hired him, and then now he's gone. And now you're hiring Tocchet, and now we're back to the inconsistency behind the bench. That's where my issue is. It's okay, are we 1,000% sure this time? Are we 1,000% sure this is the coach? Because if we're not, if there's even a slight tinge of doubt, oh no.
No, I'm gonna hopefully help you feel better with this statement here, Matty. Hopefully I can bring you some peace, or at least somewhat. So if I feel like if Danny wasn't ready to take the next step forward, which he is, and he's come out and said that he wants to try and add now. He's done subtracting. They have cap money to spend. So they're going to go out and they're going to start bringing pieces in. If they didn't feel like they were ready to make a push and start making the playoffs, which I don't think they make the playoffs next year, I think they make a push and try and get into the playoffs the next year. Still need to figure out your goalie issue. Still got to figure out a center. You still have some question marks on defense. I don't think there's as many as people think, but there's still some question marks there. So we're going to figure those out this year. I think they're just going to miss the playoffs. And then I think you're really going to start seeing this team make a push forward. I don't think you hire Tocchet unless you feel like you're making the playoffs in the next 2 years.
Are you saying we're going to beat Detroit to the playoffs, just like Ottawa did in
Probably.
Montreal?
You know where I stand with Detroit. They're not in
Yeah.
a bad situation. They just have to. They just got to figure out their goalie situation.
Right, them too. Let's take a look at the start comments here. Swoopy saying, stop freaking hiring a coach. If they are truly rebuilding, why keep bringing in coach after coach? Why? Get a true identity first. Pris saying, who was the biggest FA he got to go to Vancouver? And if it wasn't anyone big, was it in the market in Vancouver? I can't recall a big name going to Vancouver.
I don't think there was really anybody in the market. I would probably say it was JT Miller. And then they went ahead and they re-signed Elias Pettersson to an $11.5 million a year contract. So that kind of ate up a lot of their cap.
The only big market player that I think ever went to Vancouver, and really the truth is the only reason why he wound up there is because they didn't realize, the organization that he was with didn't realize how good he was. That was Luongo. And that was only because Florida was run like a circus back then. So they sent Luongo off to Vancouver, not realizing, you had a franchise goalie and you absolutely pissed him away to send him up to Vancouver. That was a really dumb move on their part. They got him back though, past his prime. But still,
but, I mean, that was that was pre Tocchet. But yeah, I mean,
it was pre Tocchet. But you get what I'm saying. I'm just trying to think because Pris was saying big people, big names going to Vancouver that weren't drafted. That was the one I could think of, honestly. So we'll be saying, guys, coaching change after coaching change won't do anything. Stop with new coaches. They are rebuilding a team. Get an identity first. Focus on players and style, abilities, and players. Then make every move be about that. Draft, trades, free agency. Then find that style of coach who looks for that too, and a style, system, and an identity that will fit to that. And couple more here. Heather saying, I'm curious to see what Tocchet can bring to the table and how our boys will respond, hoping we end up as a playoff contender next year. And then Joe, Hurricanes and Stars for his Stanley Cup Finals. What do we think?
You'll find out in the second half of the show from me.
Right. So
I'm rooting for it because I'm sick of the same old. We'll talk about that later in the second half.
Right. A little teaser for things to come. So let's see here. What's the next one we got? Benny saying, big question is, who are the favorites to fill out the rest of his staff? That will be the first big test.
I've heard Luke Richardson's name quite a bit.
Okay.
Which is a shame. I was really hoping that maybe Bradshaw would stay because he has a great relationship with the defenseman. He got really good play out of the defenseman, as well as working on the penalty kill. But I could see, he was brought in by Torts. He filled in. He put his hat in the ring for head coach after being interim, and when you don't get the job, it's kind of time to move on, right? But the one thing that we could build on, Luke Richardson could be an adequate replacement. He knows defense, but you also look at the head honcho too. Now, Tocchet on Jason Matias's podcast, Flyers Daily, came out and said, I don't want like 5 other Rick Tocchets. I want different minds. And that's what we could expect to see. And I think Luke Richardson is an example of that. But we can't ignore that the Canucks in his 2 years with them were tied for the 4th fewest goals allowed at 5-on-5 and really had that due to that high work ethic. So, he brings a defensive mindedness despite being a forward in his playing days.
No, for sure.
Well, Heather's with you on that one. He said, yes, Pope, sad to hear Shaw left, but definitely get it.
Mhm.
And let's see here. Greg's saying, you know how far we've fallen as an organization where players need to be lured here by a coach, but this is the bed we made.
I mean, we're not the first organization to try and lure players here with that, but I mean, you see Mitch Cobb playing the way he does, that's going to be a lure there. If the defense winds up being as good as there, it's going to lure defensemen there. It's going to potentially lure a goalie. Should neither one of the guys in the pipeline work out, or if they need to just find a bridge for this year. So I mean, there's a couple different things, but I mean, just the way Danny described it at the introductory press conference was, this is a head coach that's going to be able to lure free agents. So I'm going to run with it.
And Greg's saying, when is a good old boy Berube joining the coaching staff again? He's in Toronto. He's a little busy.
Not anymore. They're not busy anymore. I tell you that.
Well, yeah, it's true. Well, he's busy golfing. I mean, let's just take a quick second. Is anyone shocked that Toronto's out? I'm not. I'm not even remotely shocked right now.
I'm a little bit, because I kind of picked them to finally break the drought, and I thought Craig Berube would be the man to take him there to have that. And they purposely built this team to play well in the playoffs, and they exit the second round again. It comes out that Austin Matthews was dealing with an injury all season that he never spoke about. And our old boy Stolarz had got a concussion in game one. So, there was a few reasons why that went south, but I mean, you also got to see look at who they're playing. Florida.
That's true, but I will say
got a lot of depth on that team too. So like,
right.
Matthews being hurt's not a good enough excuse. You got Nylander, you still got Marner. Like neither one of those guys showed up in Game 7.
Well, I mean,
Marner.
Well, I mean, let's be honest here. Marner thinks he's a god, but really he's just a peasant because the dude can't show up when he's expected to. Oh, but when they're playing a last place team, he can, score like 20 points. It's like, yeah, can you do that against a good team? No. Matthews can do it against both. What the hell's your problem? Anyway, so
there was a time where I thought maybe Flyers could make a play, but you know what? Let him be, man. I don't know who wants that on your team.
I wouldn't want Marner anywhere near me, quite frankly. I would rather make a play.
Points.
Yeah.
102 points. Though.
Yeah.
I mean, no. I don't hate Marner. I don't necessarily want him near my team either, but I mean, you got to understand the frustration. This is the third year in a row, get to Game 7 and you put out that kind of effort. The Toronto Maple Leafs in the last few years, I think it's like the last time they've played a Game 7, they're 0-11. They're 0-11. They haven't won a Game 7 in over a decade. That's I understand the frustration.
There's curse.
Yeah. And to me, like Toronto, this is probably one of the better Toronto teams that they've put out on the ice in a long time. But come against a team against like Florida, they can roll the 4 lines. Toronto can't. They got 2 lines. That's it. They can't compete. Florida's way faster.
Well, also on top of that too, Toronto kind of put themselves in this position anyway because they cap-stranged themselves by overpaying Tavares, and then who's, in my opinion, that contract turned into an albatross relatively quickly. I understand you had to overpay Matthews. That was going to happen. And to an extent, I understand that you were going to have to pay Marner a pretty decent chunk of change. But the fact that they didn't try to play hardball at all with Tavares is kind of shocking, considering that, Tavares is a fanboy of Toronto. You can play a little hardball with him because he wants to play there so bad. Just like, see if you can get him to take a slight less pay compared to what Matthews and Marner are going to be winding up making. But, then they overpaid guys like Patrick Marleau for some reason. But anyway, nothing against Marleau, but by the time he came to Toronto, he was way past his prime. Anyway, and I mean, I'm not saying Tavares doesn't have good years. I'm saying, though, is like, again, it's just, where's the results? Like you can have great regular seasons all day, but if you can't get it done in the playoffs, That's where, you know.
It's where you see it's where the importance of depth comes into play.
Right.
And that's why you see teams like Carolina, Florida, Dallas.
They're flourishing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, and to be fair, we were hoping that the two best teams in the East wound up coming out of this. And to be fair, I think that's the case here. You have the two best teams that were in that bracket facing off with each other in the Eastern Conference Finals this year. So now the question is, who wins it? That's the big question, and that's the tough one to answer, isn't it?
No, I'll tell you right now, everybody wins when you hit that like, subscribe, and do everything A2D, and don't forget, we got shows for everybody. We got Lazy Booking back, who was on earlier today with the great EC3. Chrome's got a couple more interviews coming up over the next couple weeks, but hit that like, hit that subscribe, turn on those notifications, no matter where you are. Don't miss those interviews coming up. I know he's got a guy who's been on the station a few times, has been the Blue Meanie. So I know he's got that one coming up. So that's always going to be a good one. And if you can't catch us live, make sure you get us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spreaker, Spotify. We are there.
That's right.
Niche night. It's back, baby.
Let's see here. Spoopy saying Marner is a pass-first guy. Very rare at wing. I think he'd be a center, and Matthews would play wing, being a shot-first goal scorer. Strange.
Nope. He's been playing wing. He's been playing wing in Toronto. He hasn't played center since juniors.
And then Priz saying Big Bob might end up with a better career than Vazzy at this pace with the Panthers. I mean, it'd be crazy to see Florida get back in, because that would mean that for 6 straight years, we've had a team from the Sunshine State represent the East. So, and maybe not the Cup has always gone to Florida to spend its summer, but the Prince of Wales has for these last 5 years. I'll tell you, I'm surprised that trophy's even silver right now. It should be copper at this point with how much time it's spent out there in the sunshine. But, you got to say, Florida, with the way that they've managed to put together a team that's been relentless in the playoffs, and the way that they've just been, their style is shove the puck down your throat, back it up with some hard hits and some great goaltending from Bob. It's a tough opponent to go up against. They're a tough out. And then on top of that, you got Carolina here. Carolina, they're a team that just all around, they've got the ability to just play big, play strong, and they can score, which was something that, in the past, some would argue and say was their lacking point, although they seem to have addressed that. And so far, their goaltending has held up. So, I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting how this Eastern Conference Finals could shake out.
No, I mean, absolutely. I mean, this one to me is a crapshoot, because it could literally go either way. You got two teams that can roll 4 lines. You got two teams that work hard. Two really good defenses, and Bob is the better goalie than Frederick Anderson, but Freddie's having a hell of a playoff run. I think Freddie's finally going to get it done. Both teams forecheck well. Both teams have good power plays. I mean, the penalty kills the bread and butter of the Carolina Hurricanes, but geez Louise, this is going to be a fast-paced, high-scoring affair. I mean, we see it's 3-1 right now. The one thing that I will give to Florida in this series over Carolina is they do have scoring depth. They do have more scoring threats over Carolina. And Carolina's got some good players that can put the puck in the net, but I mean, Brad Marchand, Alexander Barkov, Carter Verhaeghe, they're even Sam Bennett. They're getting goals from guys like Gadjevic. They're getting goals from everybody. So that's going to be the one hard part about slowing down the Florida Panthers is they're rolling 4 lines right now, and they're getting goals everywhere. So this is going to be a tough series for Carolina, but I think Carolina's forecheck and physicality can help slow them down a little bit, but they can also utilize their speed as well. So I don't look at too much from game 1, but I do. This is going to be a very deep series. I think this series is going 7 again.
Yeah, I mean it very well could. It very well could. So let's see here. Lily, I'm saying Carolina has no shot against Florida in 5. Pris saying, I want Dallas versus Carolina so Rantanen can beat both teams that traded him in one playoff. Joe's saying, too bad the Flyers can never have a guy like Bobrovsky. Yeah. And Pris saying, Nordiques in 6. Interesting. So which team's relocating before the series is over?
Man, that Bobrovsky comment hit me a little hard, Joe, because every time the Flyers get a goalie, something happens.
Well, I'll tell you exactly what happened. You had an idiot running the team, and you literally thought that Brizgalov was going to, be the future goaltender. And then you bought him out the very next year. Complete waste of money. Absolute waste of money. You should have just rolled with Bob. Should have. Oh, well, what are you going to do? Wouldn't be the first time the Flyers traded a goaltender that was, just about ready to heat their peak,
Go back to the Boucher days.
Oh, yeah.
Get a guy who's solid, but not a franchise guy, but has a good enough career.
Right. You had a guy that was about to set an NHL record, and in Bob's case, you had a guy that was about to win 2 Vezina trophies. So, it's all right. Flyers know what they're doing. Hopefully. Swoopy saying Edmonton had a former Flyers short-term goalie start this year, too. They did. And let's see. Ed Snyder, technically, yes, Ed Snyder made that signing because he forced Paul Holmgren to find a goaltender. That was pretty much what it was. He put a shit ton of pressure on Paul Holmgren. Let's see here. Heather saying, yes, Bush is my boy. Yeah.
Turned into a really great analyst, too.
Yeah. Absolutely. I really enjoy his commentary with JJ. I think he's fit into that slot nicely. Actually, here's a fun question for the chat to throw out there. Who did we trade Boucher to, and who did we get back for him? See how many people know this. I'm sure there's plenty who do, because the fam out there, they're very smart. We got some highly intelligent hockey people out here, so I'm sure they'll be able to get this one.
Betty's just about to hit send on YouTube. Guaranteed.
Probably.
Or even Joe, too.
Priz saying, I don't know, for I don't know. Oh, come on, Priz, you know. Anyway.
That's because Priz and I have been getting down with the smokables all afternoon. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy.
Hey, listen, 420's hit. Joe saying, or have an all-world goalie shoot against the girl during the Junior Olympics. I don't even. What are you saying, Joe? I'll be honest, I don't know what you're saying, bud. You have to rephrase that one for me. No, it was not Rathje. Let's see. What's up, Pete? He's loving the hire. Oh, there we go. Heather, nice. There you go. It was Robert Ashe. That's who we went and grabbed.
Head case, basket case, one of the coolest Flyers I've ever met. And he gave me a shutout in the playoffs against the Devils on the road.
Well, there you go. There at least was that.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that he did have that over Boucher. He beat the Devils in a series. He also had that over Hextall, too. So there you go. But, yeah. So nice pull from you, Heather. It was Robert Ashe. Joe saying, oh, Hart with the sexual assault. Okay, that's what you meant. Okay, that's what you meant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That did come out.
Yep.
Oh, don't forget. Oh, there's another player in that deal, too. That's what I thought. I wasn't sure. I don't think it was. I don't think it was. It was a 1-for-1. It was a 2-for-1.
There was another player. You are correct. That we grabbed.
Zeus.
Yes, Donis Zubris came
No.
on.
Michael Hanzus.
Michael Hanzus, Donis Zubris.
Yes.
I don't know why I was thinking to him, but anyway.
It's all good. I looked it up. I cheated.
Yeah.
But I thought there was a second player. And
there was. Now, the reason, but for those out there who might not be aware of why they did that, it was because the Flyers went and grabbed a certain goaltender and decided to make him their starter. That certain goaltender was another head case that would show up in the playoffs and absolutely fizzle out over and over again. I'm sure everybody knows exactly who I'm talking about right now. Robbie, I'm sure you know who I'm talking about right now. Somebody that really frustrated the Flyers when it was playoff time. During the regular season, he was great.
Big gigantic universe?
No, not him.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. I thought you were going there. Czechmanic?
Oh yeah, it was Chet Manick.
Yeah,
because the Flyers.
That was my gut. That was my gut. But the more you talked, I'm like, no, head case. The biggest head case in the world was Brizgalov by far.
Oh, he was the biggest head case, but Chet Manick was also a head case.
True.
So,
truth be told.
I mean, I think that's because he used to head the puck like he was playing soccer. I think that's what did it to him. But at the end of the day, that's
you like concussions.
Yeah. So that's why we wound up trading Boucher away, because we had Czechmanic and we figured, okay, let's invest fully in Czechmanic. We're going to shit can Bouch to Siberia, better known as Arizona, and go and grab Robert Ashe, who was their backup. That was a Bobby Clark move. Full through right there. And let's see here. Yep, so Benny got that one. Heather, of course. Unibrow. Yep, the unibrow. Oh, man. Anyway, so obviously, as we've been watching so far, the conference finals currently going, still in the second period here. They've got a situation in the goal crease right now. It looks like they had a divot somewhere in there, so they're trying to take care of that right now. But still 3-1 Florida. And if that holds for these 2 minutes and then another 20, then the Panthers will be up 1-0 in their series against Carolina. Bouch got hit, and that led to a big moment right in front of the net there. But, gentlemen, what do you think about the conference finals right now? You've got Florida and Carolina on one end, which is a rematch from 2 years ago when Florida swept Carolina right out of the Eastern Conference Finals. To be fair, though, I don't think anyone was expecting that. And now it's round 2 between these two sides to see who comes out on top. As a matter of fact, we got a rematch on the West side, too. So my question is, gentlemen, who do you see winning round 2 here between both parties? Who do you see winning this series between Florida and Carolina? And who do you see winning between Dallas and Edmonton?
Oh, first of all, these rematches are boring. Like, really? Edmonton, Dallas, 2 years in a row?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the Stars exact some revenge, and I'm going to go with that. I think I'm going to pick the Dallas Stars because the way they overcame the Colorado Avalanche, down Jason Robertson, Heiskanen, you know what I mean? Heiskanen, like that was pretty bold, and they're making quite a run here. So I guess I'll go Dallas. If that's not enough to make you puke, Florida and Carolina, we saw this before, and Florida is now with the potentiality of make the finals 3 years in a row. Are they the next dynasty?
Hope not.
I mean, it's hard to argue. I mean, considering that, you talk about consistent performances, you can't get any better than that for the most part.
I'm a little upset like you were, Maddie, in the beginning of the show in terms of not understanding the constant changing in the coaches. I'm wondering where the parity is going in this league, because the NHL just a few years ago was probably the quintessential example of parity in professional sports, and that's turning around. And we're seeing, we had the Tampa Bay Lightning run. Now it's shifting over to the other side, to Sunrise, right? And yeah, Bob has the potentiality of passing Vasilevsky, but the two of them are putting together a lot of hardware down in Florida in a warm weather state. So, I mean, I guess it's good for the game growing, but I don't know. I mean, I was really hoping for a Canadian team to win the cup. I won't lie, this year. So, maybe I should go roll with Edmonton, but I really hope that, as teams rebuild, like your other team, Maddie, the Sharks, right? Brian, your team, the Ducks, are rounding into the last lap of their rebuild. Chicago Blackhawks, right? We can get some more parity back.
Yes.
Detroit may be making some noise like they should be. Ottawa Senators may be making one last run with Claude Giroux if they re-sign him. But that was another topic that came up yesterday. Would you guys be in on the Flyers making a push to get G back here?
Yeah. I'd be about it.
I've been for it. I've been fine with the idea of bringing G back, to be honest with you. I mean, obviously, he wouldn't be in the same role that he was in when he left. He wouldn't be the captain. But at the same time, I think he would be fine if you put an A on him. Like put an A on him and have him work with the young guys. I'd be fine with that, honestly. He's working with the young guys in Ottawa, and they seem to be responding well to it.
Well, we have a coach that started off a Flyer and came back to be a Flyer. So, I guess it's bring back the Flyers. Let's bring back everybody. Let's go. I don't know. Hey, I mean, when we talked about last night, I was like, I don't know. I think you need to be moving forward or whatever. And I think, I have to look up his name. This other guy, Mark, we were talking with, he made a good point too. Like, he's from Ottawa. He's built a home and a life there, and his kids are growing up. Does he want to reroute them back to Philly? I don't know where the motivation is on the player side too.
Yeah, I mean, like I said last night when I was chiming in on the show, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he stays in Ottawa. They both have an interest in wanting to re-sign and getting the deal done to keep him there. I wouldn't hate him coming back to Philadelphia. I think he would definitely help the power play. I think G and Michkov could be very interesting together.
I think so too.
And I do think that the guys in the locker room really love him there. And I think he's a key piece for them to get back to the playoffs again next year. I mean, after all, Tim Stützle likes to call him Grumpy Grandpa or Grandpa Grumpy or something along those lines. So they have a good rapport with him. I don't know if they're going to disrupt that. And
well, I mean, he's still a productive player, Brian. To your point, and that's what the dude's name was Mark Ramos. You can follow him on Twitter at Ramos Reports. He does podcasts with Fired Up Sports. He covers the Philly Union as well as the Flyers. Really knowledgeable dude. Really, we'll have to have him on our show as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I think, if G wants to stay in Ottawa, that's fine. I mean, it's where his family is, like you said, Bri. If he wants to come back to Philly, I would say, especially if he gets a chance to work with Michkov, I'll say this right now. I mean, I think the reason why Giroux turned out to be as great as he was, he got to play with Jágr for that year. Because, I mean, think about it. He had a breakout year when he got to play with him on the same line. And Hartnell had a great year that year. And Hartnell was not known for goal scoring. That was not his thing. Yet at the same time, he had a year where he was top in charts as a goal scorer. So it's like a vet who can score and dish can do a lot for a young player right off the bat. That to me is something that's like, wow, you put G with Michkov, that could actually be a huge benefit for Michkov. Yeah. Like, not even like passing torch. I mean, just in the sense of like, have G be his Jágr. Like, just show him stuff, show him tips, tricks, anything to make him better at the end of the day.
To build off of that, Maddie, to kind of help kind of build your point a little bit more, Voracek. Look at how Voracek was with G. Mm-hmm. Those two love playing together, and those two racked up a ton of points together. So
they did.
It goes to show you, like, if you have the right guy with you, I'm not saying that G's the right guy, but I mean, I would love to have G back. Just, once a Flyer, always a Flyer. And I wanted to say this earlier, and I completely forgot until now. If you look at the Flyers' complete front office minus Danley Heatley, they're all ex-Flyers. So, like, it really is getting to that point. But honestly, if it's working and this team is moving forward from where they were 5 years ago, I honestly, like, I was very adamant about no more ex-Flyers or whatever. I don't care. I'm at the point where at my age, like, I don't care. Whatever gets the team back to winning. Whatever gets the team back to winning.
Briz was proposing bringing Sam Bennett or Marchand. Could you imagine seeing Marchand in a Flyers jersey? It kind of makes me want to gag. I'm not going to lie. Like, just a little, don't you think? Plus, also, I don't think he'd want to come to the Flyers anyway. Not because of the fact that he's a former Bruin, but because of the fact that I think he'd want to be on a playoff team.
Yeah.
Bennett, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. How do you feel about Sam Bennett?
I think he's more likely than Brad Marchand. Honestly, I think
Definitely.
I'm with you. I think Marchand goes to another contender.
I would
in
be,
Florida.
I mean, even if Florida even wins a cup, he might wind up going to another team anyway. Because it's like, screw it, 1-1 with them. Might as well go to another one. Maybe he'll go to Dallas and win one over there.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm all about Bennett, center. Vet in this league. Like help bridge the gap. As well as contribute. He's still a productive player. So
right,
plays both sides of the puck well too.
Right.
Chris saying just get the biggest rat line ever. He throw TK, Bennett, and Marchand on a line just to piss everybody off. Could you imagine the shit talking? Could you imagine the chirping going on in that one? Oh my God!
You have that line, right? You have that line, right? Think about this. You have that line, and then you have the line of Garnet Hathaway, Ryan Poehling, and Nick Delorier.
Oh my God! So you got the guys who are going to talk shit, and then you're going to get the guys who are going to fight you. Like, good Lord!
It's so smart. That's why they're the PhD line.
Oh man, I did agree with Jesse last night, though. I think playing Delorier a little bit more next year is going to be massive for him, especially since it's a contract year. Maybe he can get himself one more contract.
Maybe might get a really solid year out of him.
Right. So, who do you boys say makes the finals?
So, for me, I know no one's going to want to see this, but I think Florida beats Carolina and goes back to the Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, I know everybody's hoping for Carolina to win it, but I'll just be brutally honest. Like you were saying with parity with Rob, I don't know, man. I think the Sunshine State's getting that Prince of Wales again. I think it's going to be 6 straight years of a Florida team in the final.
I agree.
As for their opponent.
Sorry, Roddy.
Yeah. As for their opponent, I don't know if I'm going to win a whole lot of people's hearts and minds over here, but I'm going Edmonton.
You're fired.
I think we get a rematch from last year's final. I think we get a rematch from last year's final. We're going to get Florida and Edmonton round 2.
I hate it.
And then McDavid actually wins the cup, and my prediction again is a year earlier. Yeah.
Right. We get a replay of 2008, 2009, just with 2 different teams and a different superstar. There you go.
Shit. Man, that's gross. This just makes me feel dirty. I think it's going to wind up being Carolina and Dallas. I definitely see the argument for Florida. I understand the argument for Florida. I just think Carolina figures out a way. I mean, it's only one game. I know it doesn't look pretty with the score being. I actually wound up turning the game off and put the Phillies game on. There's in second intermission, still 3-1. Still a very, very much a game that Carolina can still win. Carolina is out shooting the Panthers. So if they can figure out some ways to beat Bob and get creative, I could definitely see Carolina, moving on. So with that, I'm Carolina. I think Dallas is just a way deeper team than Edmonton. I'm a big fan of Jake Ottinger. He's just been absolutely unreal through this playoff run. And just absolutely, like you said, Rob, getting J-Rob back and getting Miro Heiskanen back for Dallas has been an absolute resurgence. It's going to be very important for Dallas to be able to stay disciplined, stay out of the box, and keep that power play off the ice for Edmonton.
Jonathan Harvey saying Stanley Cup Finals, Dallas versus Florida. Florida wins, and disagree with the poll on the hiring of Rick Tocchet. Thank you, John.
Appreciate the comment. Thanks, Jonathan. That
see.
nasty comment. It's dirty.
Benny's saying
What did this guy say?
He said Florida wins the cup in a final against Dallas, and he disagreed to the poll of hiring Rick Tocchet. Benny also says bring back Kenny Linsman. And then Priz saying, I'm not mad if Florida wins. My Verhage and Lundell's go up on money.
Mo money, mo money, mo money.
He also says, but I have a shit ton of Heiskanen and Harleys and Robos and Otters.
You have the whole league covered, Priz. It don't matter. You're going to make money.
Right. So I say I need the Dallas to win to cash in on some of those. But
Interesting.
I'm going to say right now the one thing about, and this was something I wanted to say earlier before we look at some of the images that we have loaded up for everybody to see. Getting back to the parity that that Rob was bringing up and talking about how it's been very lacking in the NHL. And you know what's funny? I know a lot of people like to talk about recent history of the lack of parity, but it's been going on for a while, the lack of parity. And if you really look back in recent history of who's won championships, it shouldn't surprise you that we're kind of getting into a new dynasty. Because think about it. Go back through the last 10 years of the finals. How many different teams have won the cup in the last 10 years? You're seeing a lot of similar teams walk out with that championship. I think like the one outlier there's two outliers. Boston in 2011 and St. Louis in 2019. Everything else is a team that either won one and then won another one either 2 or 3 years later, or won 2 in a row, or won one in a pattern like LA and Chicago did. So it's like, wow. The parity hasn't really been there for a long time. Like the last time I think we saw parity, Anaheim was winning their first cup. Carolina won their first. And then you had Detroit win theirs. And then Pittsburgh won one. And then after that, after Chicago won their first and then Boston won theirs, the parity was gone after that. And it's been gone since 2011.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get it because you had Pittsburgh win twice, you had Chicago win 3, you had LA win 2, Tampa won back-to-back. They went 3 times.
Oh, I'm sorry. Vegas is the other outlier.
Yeah, I totally see where you're
But then Vegas was there in the finals a lot too, where they could have easily had 2 or 3.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just getting in their own way, really.
But the good thing, though, is, you're continuing to see.
Sorry, Benny.
You're continuing to see a lot of these teams creeping up on some of the other ones. Like, I mean, if you look at the standings, like they're not as far apart from the last wild card team to last place. I mean, you have your couple teams like Chicago and San Jose that were just abysmal this year. But if Anaheim was supposed to have the 8th pick this year, they weren't out by much. Flyers, they weren't really out by all that much. Like, there's still, the parity is still there. It just seems to be the teams that are the deepest are the teams that are continuing to get there.
Right.
And it also goes to show how important a franchise goalie is, because you're seeing these teams that have their franchise goalie, they tend to go further as well. An outlier being Vegas with Aiden Hill.
Right. I mean, think about it. Like, look at, I mean, hell, Boston, ironically enough, and here's the funny thing, too. Boston had a franchise goalie. They didn't win with them. They won with Thomas. They didn't win with Rask, which is kind of funny when you think about that.
No, but they went twice with him.
They went twice with them. They just didn't win them.
Yeah.
And then, but Priz brings up, I mean, Chicago had Corey Crawford, and the 1 year they had Niemi, although that was like a career year for Niemi. And then the Kings had Quick, and Quick was considered the best goalie in the league, except for maybe Lundqvist. And then Pittsburgh, you could they had Fleury. Fleury, though, had his moments where he had to work with another goaltender. But Fleury.
You forget who that was already?
No, I remember exactly who it was, but then he burnt out relatively quickly after that.
Okay.
So Fleury actually lasted. He did not. Tampa, of course, had Vazzy, and Florida's got Bob right now. So it's kind of hard. I mean, although, to be fair, getting a little bit back onto it, Boston, Vegas, Colorado, and St. Louis. So you had, and the Cap. So you had 5. All right, so it's not as bad as I made it out to be. 5 outliers isn't that bad, but you still see the consistency of a lot of the same teams getting into the finals and winning the finals, though. You'd still see it.
And it's getting worse.
Right.
In the past, few years. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, 6 years as a team from Florida, so
right. But and
great for the league, though. Great for
right.
the league to seeing the success of 2 teams from Florida. Absolutely great for the league, but I'm like you. I want more parity. Like, that's what makes the NHL playoffs that much better. I do think that they're getting a little bit more predictable. But,
right.
I mean, I would still watch the NHL playoffs over any other playoffs.
I agree. But here's the thing. Like, that's why I think the playoffs 2 years ago was so exciting, because of the fact that you had Seattle making their first playoff appearance and then eliminating Colorado, dethroning the defending champs. You also had Florida going on that run that shocked everybody, defeating the best team in the regular season of all time in Boston that year, came back from 3-1 to do it, and then managed to embarrass Toronto in the second round, which really isn't that hard to do. But then also embarrassing Carolina, which is hard to do, in the Eastern Conference Finals. So it's like 2 years ago, man, when ESPN first took back over, it was like, geez, like this is why you love the playoffs, because this kind of shit happens. And then the last couple of years have kind of been predictable. So it's been a little frustrating, I would say, in that regard, I would say. But anyway, we could talk about, the playoffs and possible predictability and the lack of, underdogs coming out on top as we continue further on down the line. But we do have some fun images to pop up here. Our beloved Ralph Del Vecchio here at A2D Radio decided to pay a little visit to the Flyers as a season ticket holder. So we got some cool images here for everybody to see from the locker room.
Revamped locker room, right? They just redid the whole thing?
I think so.
If I can get there we go. Yep. This is a couple shots of the locker room.
Nice. Some of the famous names.
Barber, Shiro, yeah. Gary Dornhofer, a little cut off, but he's there.
Yep.
I remember Gary Dornhofer did the color for the TV.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. No, he was good. It was absolutely good. What do you guys think about the new name, Xfinity Mobile Arena?
About
right.
I mean, if they had... why didn't they just call it the Xfinity Arena? Or call it the Xfinity Center or something? Just cut out the mobile part. That part bothers me. Everything else is fine.
Right. XC, Jim Watson. That's cool to have some of the all-time greats, though, etched up above the names on the lockers themselves, or you can look up to Flyer greats. I do like that nice touch. And here, speaking of one, we all know this scene.
Keith Primo. That great goal that he scored in those 5 OTs. Oh man, that was nice. That was nice.
God, that bus ride home was rough for them. That bus ride home was rough for them.
Probably.
Dave Pullen holding up the Prince of Wales.
Is that, I'm trying, it looks like it's from 85 from what the plaque says. Nice.
You can read that?
Barely. I have to literally barely.
Damn, you got good eyes there, Maddie.
And Hexy. Oh, it's because I got my glasses on. If I didn't have my glasses on, I wouldn't be able to read shit right now.
So do I.
And then Hexy celebrating. Is that when he scored? I think that must have been when he scored the goal. What a moment that was. I mean, the first goalie to score like that, that's cool.
Oh,
then of course, he did it in the playoffs too. Even better.
Damn, Benny, you had intermission. You could have pissed at intermission. You had 20 minutes in between. I mean, I love the commitment.
He said had to take a piss for 5 OTs, but did not for the team. Damn, Benny.
Benny's a trooper. Let's go.
Rest in peace to your bladder, bro. God damn, dude.
Exploded. Yeah.
How did you survive that? Like, good Lord.
Pop like a balloon.
That's like freaking taking a trip down to that's like taking a trip down to like Florida or cross country somewhere and hitting traffic the entire time and not pissing at any point when you could have taken a stop multiple times. Like, what are you doing?
Gotta do what you gotta do for the team, I guess.
I guess so, brother. He said barely. Oh man. But yeah, what a game that was. You know what's funny too about that series? Did you know a lot of people forget that the Penguins actually were controlling that series. The Flyers were down in that series 2-1, and Ron Tugnut actually shut the Flyers out in the game prior. So it was just like, oh shit, the Flyers are in trouble because the Penguins might actually upset them here. And that 5-0 tier, thank God the Flyers won it, because if Penguins had won that, the series was over. They were winning that series. So,
I mean, what Ron decides to do in his spare time is his time, but if he wants to tug nut, he needs to sit there and not do that on company time.
Still one of the best fucking names ever.
A little back up that story. So I'm in college, and one of my studies outside the classrooms was learning the game of poker, and became a little successful in little house games around Rutgers University. But just that night, I was introduced to a new poker saying, and that's one time. Right. And that's where you can be in a tournament, right? Your odds are so against you, but you're like one time and you hit that river and you win the pot, right? Every poker player gets that one time per tournament. And I used that one time on that game and it scored. I was like, awesome.
That's funny.
Yeah, man. Oh, man.
Benny said he did his Kegel exercises. That's how he survived it.
I remember they had like pizza deliveries during the intermission, like on the reg. Yeah, keeping up those carbs, keeping up that energy. That was
guys
one of the
on
best
IVs.
games of hockey.
Guys on IVs, and you know, I forget who it was. Somebody was telling a story. It might have been Primo was telling a story of the bus ride back to Philadelphia. Guys were on IVs, and some guys were passed out. Some guys were puking on the bus, and just so dehydrated and worn out that they just. It was brutal. It was brutal. Like those long games are absolutely brutal on you, on your body.
They definitely are. I mean, what was it? They told the story. Keith Jones came in one time in the locker room. He had two slices of pizza. He just stuffed them into his mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And then he just sat down, just slapping his belly because Jones, he didn't like to work out, I guess, back then. So, and then he got on the ice for like a second, and then he looked right to the bench. He said, "Change." He didn't even play a single second on the ice. And then Yager was still on the Penguins at the time. He was the captain of the team. He played 60 minutes. He played fucking 60 minutes. Now, obviously, as we know now, Yager's superhuman, so that probably wasn't really that difficult for him. But the fact that he played 60 minutes is like, good Lord.
No, he was probably like, 60 minutes. I can do that in my sleep.
Yeah, I can do that in my sleep. By the way, I sleep with 18-year-old check models. I hope you know that.
There's two people in the sporting world that owns the 60-minute mark. One of them's Yager. The other one, Ric Flair.
The
60-minute man in the bedroom. You know what I mean?
60 minutes, man. I'm lucky if I can last 3.
Oh, man. Well, I was just saying that then in Game 5, Flyers D-Man had a hat trick, which is true. Benny saying Andy Delmore. And then Jonesy also didn't have a shot in the entire game, which makes sense. Jonesy wasn't known for that. But anyway, so as much fun as it was to do that little walk down memory lane, just for one last wrap up before we send this one home, I had a Florida Edmonton rematch. Robbie, who did you have?
Florida, Dallas. Dallas wins.
Okay.
Team of destiny.
All right. And Bri, who do you got?
We all got different answers. I'll tell you that. I got Carolina and Dallas.
You know, for a finals that we think is very predictable, how is it that we all three have different finals?
Because we're not predictable.
And
That's
if
right.
there's any team that can come back down 1-0, which I assume is going to happen tonight. I mean, it's not over yet, but if the Hurricanes do go down 0-1 in their home building, they can come back from that. It's not over.
Right.
Got to
Right.
win game 2, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Gotta win game 2, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm also going to go ahead and say this. I did in the preseason pick Dallas to win the Stanley Cup. Obviously, my opinion has changed on that. So I'm going to go back to the original prediction, and I'm going to just run it with Dallas. Because every time I pick against them, they upset me.
Oh, that's funny. So we thank everybody for joining us for this edition of Flyers Talk A2D. We'll see if this score holds between Florida and Carolina. And next week we'll be in the thick of it, because by that point, I would say the conference finals will maybe one of them will be over, maybe not. But we might be getting to that big Game 6, Game 7 territory for those series. So we'll be very close to the Stanley Cup Finals come next week. So I know we're getting there. It's getting tense. Down to the Final 4. We're almost down to the Final 2. Oh, boy. So, yes. Frozen 4.
Or is that trademarked? Can we not use that?
I don't know. NCAA might be sending you a subpoena in the mail. But anyway,
again,
gotta be careful.
Again,
cease and desist. So we thank everybody for joining us. We will see you guys next week right here on a2dradio.com. Once again, brought to you by the doc, Dr. Paul Vidal at Specialized Physical Therapy. And visit them at specializedphysicaltherapy.com to make an appointment. Until next week, you stay safe, you stay healthy out there, fam. And we'll see you next week right here on a2dradio.com. Peace and love. Oh, and Florida just scored. It's 4-1.
Oh, bitch.